Blanket. First of all, hello. Second of all, I'm taking a break from my TF Nation preparations. I'm getting really tired now. Not going to lie, I've got quite a ways to go still, and the workload's not getting smaller. I've been asked this a few times, that there's the artist discourse on how to use references. Should you use references? Should you just copy straight from the reference, or just use them for detail? So I thought I'd give you a quick inner monologue, shall we say, on how I personally use references in my art. Just a quick disclaimer, I'm not going to tell you how to do things, this is just my intense suggestion. If you have something else that works for you, absolutely go on it, feel free, do your thing. But I personally think that references are there to help with the details. You collect many references for what you need especially if you don't know how to draw what you want to draw, which in my case is usually skeletons. I have a style! But this time I wanted to do a little piece for enjoyment, but one with a bit of flowing fabric, a bit of some movement, maybe some wings, I'm not sure what kind yet, and some flowers. I never draw flowers. So obviously I have no idea what flowers actually look like, despite them being very, very common in the world of art. So I will be combining all those elements into a little painting. This is mostly to show off my mum's garden, which she puts a lot of effort into and I like hanging out in. She has a huge variety of flowers for me to choose from and some non-flowering plants. But in terms of references for everyone, even if you don't have access to a garden or have a garden where your family are very planty like mine are, there's always, public places, public gardens. A lot of people have flower baskets up, or just a quick Google, you can find pictures of flowers all over the place. Even just wandering around a garden centre for a little bit can yield great results in terms of sketching. And if you want references, live sketching with flowers is probably the best way to go, but I didn't do that because time constraints are evil and I wanted to just relax and not do too many studies beforehand, so I just went around taking photos of everything that I found pretty and vaguely interesting. So I have an app called Skelly on my phone, and this is not a sponsored video, I just love this app so much. It's a completely anatomically realistic skeleton with many lighting and posing options you can use for. You can even change it to a normal drawing doll if you like. So whenever I do something with skeletons, which as you've guessed is a lot, I will use Skelly to do a general pose. If I'm looking for something more detailed in the terms of like face and hands, then I'll look elsewhere. But this is generally what I tend to use. So I've got a robe flingy thing in this drawing that I want, so I've got myself my largest blanket. I know it's patterned a lot, but I can look at the folds and just ignore the stripes if I want to. How do I want to pose this? I think of like the Romans, how did they do their clothes? How did they just wrap it up over there, maybe? Their friends, Romans, countrymen. Shakespeare. I'm absolutely rocking this right now. I try folding it over the front, like I'll put a leg up. Yeah, leg. Leg works. I kind of want it folded over the front and going round a bit. Do I want this? Yeah, I think I want this. This feels good. Wrapped over that arm. This is going well. This leg won't be shown in the picture, so maybe I should put it down slightly. No, don't fall! Round the back. It's wrapped pretty tight around here, but that's fine because that's my ribs, so when I draw the skeleton, that will still look like it's working. Remove the flesh, flinging this way slightly, that. Maybe I'll put that leg down and this leg up. I'll just hold this leg up here. This is perfect. I forgot to set up the camera. Okay, so I guess it's time for a bit of honesty hour.
I don't actually normally use references in pieces that I'm just using to relax, and I'm sorry if this turns very rambly. It's a long video and I've not actually had time to prepare a script this week, so we're winging it and seeing how this goes, so apologies if it gets a bit too incoherent or rambly. I will have more time next week, possibly, or the week after, just to try and get as much done so I can spend more time focusing on these videos. But back to the drawing itself. Yeah, I don't normally use references in paintings that I'm just doing for fun. If it's for an event like the conventions that I'm doing right now, TF Nation, a Transformers convention, then absolutely I get every reference I can, because drawing Transformers is hard. We've got all these different moving parts and different angles, and the faces are all individually different. There is no one consistent design that I can go off by memory. So references are a godsend for me. So I decided in this piece, I decided for bat wings because I was marginally more familiar, and any chance I have to be ridiculously edgy, I will take it. To sue me. I like faux edgy. I don't like true dark edgy. I just like to have fun with it. I think I feel my MCR phase coming through in my art. So to jump slightly backwards into memory lane, and this is relevant to the video, I promise, I'm not going too rambly. I never used to use references when I was first learning how to draw, until essentially my dad, who is also a very, very good artist, sat me down and then made me realise, kindly, but it still kind of hurt, just how little I knew about how things look like. Because of course you think you know what things look like, you know, yeah, I'm going to draw a bird, gotta know what birds look like, and then you've got a blob with 2 stick legs on the paper and you can't understand where things went wrong. So to start me off with the human form, he sat me down with his old comic books. He was an avid collector of 2000 AD during his teens, and I would sit there next to him and pick a page or a panel from that page, and I would draw what was on that panel. And it was hugely constructive. It wasn't tracing. I didn't put my paper over the comic and shine a light through it or try and see what was underneath. I looked at my paper, and my drawing paper was separate, and I would look at it and hand to eye draw what I could. And a lot of times it didn't work. Things were out of proportion, or I'd get bored and stop applying so much effort and detail. But it was a great way to actually learn what I was doing, and meant that when I wanted to write or draw my own poses and my own stories, I knew what kind of angle the human body would be at. I knew how to angle the screen so that I could that I could tell the most appropriate story and have the most appropriate focus. So references are absolutely something every artist should use, in my opinion. This, I think, really goes towards detail. So when I went out in the garden today to get the references for the ferns that I'm painting right now on screen, I didn't really know what ferns looked like. I knew they were separated, they weren't a full leaf, but it was only going outside that I realised that the separation of the fern had an angle to it, and each separate part folded over into its own shape, and I hadn't realised that before. And it was a wondrous little level of something that I wasn't going too detailed in this piece, but it was a nice thing to keep in mind just as I scribbled it out. So one thing I probably should have done before going straight in with paint was do a colour composition or do a little study of how I wanted the colours to be, but honestly, this was just for my enjoyment. This was for me to chill out after working so hard on finding a job and writing. I do a bunch of personal writing projects as well as the art I'm going to sell. So it was just rewarding for me to go straight in there, and yes, I would prefer the colours to have been a bit more cohesive toward the end, but it's not something I'm going to kill myself over. I'm happy roughly with definitely the shape and how everything looked from the references. That all went really well. So it's just a little tidbit for me for the future. Look at how the colours would affect each other. Look at how to make it a bit more complementary or contrast. I used the roughly accurate colours for the flowers. Maybe the ferns could have been a little bit more dull, and I could have put a bit more effort into the scattered fronds that go up on the left side, and maybe muted the wings or used a cooler colour for the wings to better suit with the foliage and the flying cloth. But again, it's something that I'm not too fussed about. This was purely for my enjoyment, and even if I'm not perfectly pleased, I'm happy with how all the line work came out. I'm working on introducing greys and browns into my line work. I'm not ready to make the transition to full colour lining, as I've seen many artists do. Danica Sills is a great one for that in some of her more recent videos. But I'm addicted to black liners. My comic copying history is still shining through pretty strongly there. So this is where I'm going to leave you voiceover wise. I hope you enjoy the rest of the video. It's just me completing the line work, doing a little bit touch-ups here and there. I hope you've enjoyed the content of this video. Let me know in the comments if you would like to see anything more from me, and leave your own suggestions and experiences with using references and your thoughts. I'd love to hear them. I will list all the materials I used in the description, and again, that is it for today. So I will see you all next week. Goodbye and thank you.